My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs Dispatch, our monthly Q&A topics, listener response, and game announcement episode.
Yeah. Here for August this month. No, this month went by quick. This year is going by quick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And next year. And the year after that.
Yep. Each one gets faster because as a proportion of your life, as you get older, it is less and less.
Yeah, and it's speeding towards that old, whatever happens.
Yeah.
Need not be specified.
Yeah, we're not here to tell you. We're not here to tell you.
Yeah, seems outside the scope of this dumb shit.
Yep.
Let's get started here with some game questions. I'm going to get started here with Dylan. Dylan says, when playing my SNES a few weeks ago, I got thinking about how back then licensed games were usually considered the bottom of the shit bucket, the soggy bread of the shit sandwich. Nowadays, stuff like Spider-Man 2, KOTOR, and The Walking Dead have mostly dispelled that stigma. Do you have any affection for any of the earlier eras of licensed games? I'll go to bat for the SNES Jurassic Park game. It's shockingly in-depth, top-down, open-world game before that was even a thing, and it even has some early first-person shooter sections pre-Doom. The Vorpal Flaw? You can't save. This is actually my first ever video game alongside Mario Kart, both given to me in Christmas of 1997. Yeah. Yes. Sure.
Yeah, why not?
I like that SNES Jurassic Park game. Mm-hmm. I like the Genesis Jurassic Park game just fine too.
Yeah.
And there's what is it? I like the X-Men beat 'em up, Children of the Atom, that Capcom beat 'em up. That's good. I like both Genesis X-Men games, maybe more than they deserve, but I think those are both interesting. Agreed. I think that there's something to those games, but I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with them being licensed. I wouldn't trade the good licensed games for them. It's just a couple of them stood out as being, bucking the trend, I feel like.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like a different era where it was especially great, by and large. And all that I can come up with is basically nothing. It's just individual games, so if I said like there was interesting and weird stuff happening with licensed games on PS2 and Xbox, really what I'm talking about is that Chronicles of Riddick game was pretty good. Yeah. The
friend of the show and friend of the Gary, Will, just recently wrote a piece for this on the AV Club, calling out 2004 as the year where licensed games got good, and calls out a bunch of those examples.
Yeah.
There have always been good licensed games, like Capcom and Disney games, stuff like that. Like there have always been some, but they just by and large, it is a cash grab. I would say if I had to choose the crappiest era, I have a vague memory of like the 360 era.
Yeah,
being really bad. Like they're being, they're trying to tie into Marvel stuff, like a Thor game, that Captain America game, like a lot of stuff like that. That was pretty dodgy.
Yeah. What I think actually made the average better was mobile coming along. In terms of if you are looking to make a cash grab, just make a Simpsons game where you're managing Springfield, whatever that one is. Yeah, just make one of those, but for your lifestyle brand or whatever. Like, I think that took a lot of the chaff away from, the domain where we talk about them as licensed games.
Yeah, kind of cordoned them off.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
Ben writes, "Hello, gentlemen. I love the shows on your network, and Real Itch Hours has become appointment listening for me. Lately, Gary has mentioned that we are living through something of a renaissance in Gary-attuned media, with examples such as Marvel's Midnight Suns, Elden Ring, Baldur's Gate 3, and X-Men 97. Since everything has been coming up Gary, Might I trouble you to use your media manifestation powers to call into existence a turn-based X-Men RPG along the lines of Baldur's Gate 3 or Divinity Original Sin? Baldur's Gate 3 is probably a top 5 game for me, but while playing, I can't help but imagine how perfectly suited this style of gameplay and storytelling would be for an X-Men game. My favorite X-Men, 80s and early 90s, were typically a small numbers RPG style team with no Omega level mutant or virtual immortality through healing factor nonsense. Ideal X-Men squads were AirSats D&D parties. Stories could be melodramatic while also deeply human. Imagine the possibilities. The narration could even be overwritten Chris Claremont prose. I might have to skip out on the Throne of Lalandra DLC, though. Hopefully this at least provides some amusement. Thank you for all you do. So I'm just going to let you go.
Answer to that question is also yes, I will use my power.
Yeah.
This has long been the thing I wanted. I always positioned it as X-Men Tactics, but I consider Baldur's Gate 3 and Divinity Original Sin 2 basically tactics games.
Yeah.
You know, this is what I've always wanted. And then Midnight Suns came out, and I love Midnight Suns. It's not quite right, but it's pretty close. So it feels a little bit greedy.
Yeah.
And that didn't do very well. So I can understand people kind of shying away from that.
Yeah.
But I want that just as much. I think that'd be sick. My ideal would be, just pitching a dream thing. What about a StarCraft 2 style campaign where you go through different eras? So like you have the 80s era X-Men, and that's the Wings of Liberty. And then you move forward to 90s X-Men. And you move forward to modern X-Men. And it's 3 different campaigns that deal with 3 different villains, big overarching plot. Be really sick. That would be my dream. And I'd have to do something to play it. It'd be really difficult because I'd be busy for work and busy with real life stuff, but it would be an emergency. The likes of like a natural disaster or something like that.
Yeah.
So
you're basically describing something that I would want to, I think that the Baldur's Gate 3 or Divinity comparison, because those are very good games on their own, and, taking a coat of paint and putting it over that still leaves you with a good game. But like the MSIM kind of aspect of them mixed with the RPG, like I want to be able to use superhero powers to solve problems in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they do a lot of the stuff that you can't usually do in RPGs. There you do them. Like teleporting is a big part of both of those games. And that's a Nightcrawler thing.
Yeah.
And it's also, you take tactics games like that. Like one of the things I'm realizing in my tactics renaissance is that like one of the things that I really like about them is that it is more about than typical RPGs, more about team composition than anything. And I think that's a really interesting problem to solve.
Yes.
And so is putting together X-Men. Is team composition. So those things would dovetail really, really well.
Yeah.
I love thinking about synergies. I love thinking about what role in a party an individual character might fill, what roles I need and how to get them best filled.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I would also play the Throne of Lalandra DLC. I'm not turn down anything at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take it all. Like, give me fucking Shi'ar politics. Give me Deathbird.
Yeah. I don't want them to start with a Shi'ar one. Like, fuck, man.
It'd be fucking incredible.
I see the Shi'ar and I immediately go to sleep.
Yeah. The Shi'ar are rough. rough. For being one of the best things in the world, the X-Men have a couple really like time for sleep things that they like to get involved with.
Yeah.
Gregory says, have you guys used or would you consider using a modern game renting service like Gamefly? I signed up for Gamefly a few months ago and have been pretty happy with it. Allows me to rent a game for as long as I want, and I can decide if I want to buy the game on Steam or console or not. With the Steam refund policy of being only 2 hours and reselling games for console being a pain, this has allowed me to try out games I was on the fence about easily and legally.
I did use Gamefly in the past, like back in like 2008, 2009-ish, and it was a good way to play stuff that I was not necessarily interested in. But
what a dream.
Yeah, I know, right? No, I wasn't sure if I was going to be interested in.
Yeah.
I very specifically got it for the times when I was not working at GameStop, because you could, when you work at GameStop, at least back in the day, you could check out games. So that was just a way for me to try everything. And when I didn't have that, Gamefly was a good substitute for it. I don't know about now because... Yeah, I don't know. I'm up to my ears in games, so it's not a problem. But,
yeah. It's just I think about this as well with Game Pass too. It's the same thing with me. We talked about this before, but I'm up to my ears in games. I'm very rarely do I see something and think, oh, I want to try that because there's something else I want to play or need to play for work, but there's something before that.
Yeah.
You know, like there's, putting aside the developers being chuds, there's a non-zero chance I might like Black Myth Wukong. I don't want to buy it.
Nope.
It's expensive. It's long, and I don't want to spend the time to get to know it if I'm not going to have time to play it. And also, like, why would I do that when I have Tactical Breach Wizards? Why would I do that when I still have not? I have progress to make on Cobalt Core. Why would I do that? Well, it just I don't have that lifestyle. Anymore.
But I think there's a place for it. Even today, as physical games kind of get pushed to the margins. The unsung thing about GameFly is like their sales on games get fucking ridiculous too.
Yeah,
and you have to be a member to take advantage of those. So,
I got nothing against it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work for my. I used Game Tap back in the day for a similar kind of thing. Similar kind of thing. And that did early emulation. That was the first way it was easy to play Panzer Dragoon without, being one of the 5 richest kings of Europe. So it was, I'm for the service. I think it's good. It's just not for Gary.
Matt writes, I just built my first ever PC. I wanted to ask for some suggestions on games to play on it. A vague question, I know, but here is some context. I built it because I wanted to play certain types of games that really can only be played on a PC with a mouse and keyboard. CRPGs, city builders, anything where I move a bunch of guys around a map like an RTS or a 4X game. I've already decided Frostpunk is first on my list, and a replay of Baldur's Gate 3 will follow soon after, which will likely lead me to the Divinity games. While I have no problem with older games, I do sometimes find very old, archaic PC games to be a bit frustrating. I'm looking at you, Fallout 1. Any suggestions are welcome. Thanks.
To me, it sounds like you're on the right track.
Yeah.
For the most part, like those are the genres that you want to do in PC, that work best there. The Baldur's Gate 3 will lead you back through a lineage. If you end up playing Divinity Original Sin, you can then go play like Wasteland 2. Things like that. Those are good games. The Shadowrun Return games, there are console ports for those, but they're probably better with keyboard and mouse. You can kind of work backwards. And then Frostpunk leads you down an entire Factorio RTS/building kind of tech tree.
Grab like Farthest Frontier or something like that.
Like City Skylines. Like you can do stuff like that. One of the most fun things I think that you really want to have a keyboard and mouse for is Sims. You can play the Sims on a controller, but I wouldn't. I don't want to build things.
I mean, it's the same way, like Cities, a lot of the games that we've talked about so far have console ports. I cannot imagine playing Frostpunk on a controller.
No, it wouldn't take. So either building or commanding is excellent in that form factor.
Think about games that you have played and really enjoyed, and look and see if there are cool mods available for them.
Oh, that's great.
That's a whole wide world that is open for you now that you're on PCs. So fuck, man, Dark Souls randomizer, do it.
Yep, Dark Souls randomizer, other Dark Souls mods, any of that stuff. Like you have a wide array of things that are newly available to you. Fat Mox says, recently, Cole came out as a Breath of Fire 3 defender. There are dozens of us. Despite not having played the first 2, which got me thinking, are there any other long-running series where you've dipped into one of them and decided that's good enough? Follow-up question, how do you defeat the Mind Goblin that tells you they have to play every game in a series, even if they're not interconnected?
Starve it.
Yeah, the Mind Goblin is rough. Like, I get that, I get that as well. The Mind Goblin will pop up. Usually one thing you can do to the Mind Goblin is trick it. So like Divinity Original Sin came out, got a bunch of great reviews. I never played the original Divinity games. So I told the Mind Goblin, I'll get to them. And then it's because they take up no space on a hard drive. I installed them and there they wait. And I'm curious about those games like Diablo with ImSim stuff and actual dialogue trees. Sounds cool to me. Like I think Divine Divinity sounds neat, but the Mind Goblin doesn't know when I'll get to that. Neither do I, and that's important. So you can trick the Mind Goblin.
I don't know. I played The Witcher 3 and I never really got very far in either Witcher 1 or 2. Like that's fine. If it's a good enough game in and of itself, it can stand apart from the rest of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I got no problem dipping in
Yeah.
or stuff like that. There are ones where it's hard for me to think of one where I'm not curious at all about the stuff that came before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like Witcher 1 and 2 are on my perennial play. I've gotten halfway through Witcher 1 like several times.
Mm-hmm.
When I think about what was the other, Divinity, I want to play those. Like I do want to go back to these at some point, but who knows when I will.
Yeah. I don't know. Just, it's kind of like, the discussion about, do you use easy mode to get past an encounter or whatever? Do whatever gets you to play the games that you enjoy the most. If a stupid rule is stopping you from doing something you enjoy, or if a rule is stopping you from doing something you enjoy, then what use is that rule? Unless it's like
you make the
drugs.
rules.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are examples I can think of where things where I didn't want to go forward. So like I played Mega Man X1 and I played Mega Man X2 and I've heard other ones later are fine, but I basically am okay. I haven't played all those, they didn't, I was playing other games at the time when they were contemporary. I know I could go back, but it's hard for me to believe that we're going to get better than Mega Man X1.
No.
So I'm kind of okay. Same thing with Mega Man, really. Like, I love Mega Man 1 through 6, like, played those on NES and everything. Played a little bit of the first Revival one. And I'm curious about the other ones. But it doesn't feel like an emergency to me.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
So.
Just play cool shit. Play what you want. Yeah. Naveen says, do you ever get tilted at video games these days? I imagine with the volume of games you play and being big wheels at the Dark Souls factory, makes you guys good at video games, TM. But do you get to the point of legitimate anger?
For me, no. Generally, sometimes for a game that we're doing for work, if it's very frustrating, I will, but I make sure I have time to walk away.
Yeah.
From anything. Like I'll get mad at something and I'll be like, fuck this. And I'll get away. And then there's the tiny little chaser that's like, oh, I'm really mad about this. Let's use that. How can I transfer this into me being, angry and kind of funny about this? This will be a little bit fun to complain about.
Yes. Yeah. I don't get angry as much as I get impatient. That's the predominant kind of deal. I think that the last time I got legitimately angry or whatever was probably just at lost progress for a dumb reason. I've gotten angry like on a stream or something where there was just total bullshit that I don't know wiped out 40 minutes, and it's like I'm not going to go through this again in public. Fuck this.
No, it also probably shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
In games, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I get frustrated with stuff like that where I get why would they make this choice? Why would you do it this way? That can get me a little tilted, but very lowercase L.
Yeah.
Let's move on to life questions.
Yeah.
So we don't hang out in the games pool for too long.
Yeah.
Eric says, do you guys have any favorite, this is a life question, any favorite old people food, such as pimento loaf or head cheese? I'm partial to the odd bit of liverwurst every now and then, but if I have too much, it feels like I'm eating cat food. Why would you say this on Maine? This is caught. Posting her L's in the dispatch, Eric.
Yeah. Woof.
Yeah. The odd bit of liverwurst. Kidding, of course. I can't suffer liverwurst to eat.
I can't be in the same room with it. Fuck.
No, I don't like looking at it. It's weird. I don't like any of the tube meats that are soft that come like that are bursting.
I don't
at the seams.
Yeah. If it's meat that like kind of looks like if it's a meat that is intended to be spread, or it looks like at some point you could spread it. No.
I'm not a pate guy generally either, which is that's what this is basically. But yeah, I'm not into a spreadable meat.
Yeah.
I think.
I fuck with old person candy.
Okay. Yeah, you like root beer barrels.
Yeah, root beer barrels, orange slices.
Sure.
Necco wafers. Basically, at the if you go to like an Amish shop, anything that they have in those sketchy bags, like fuck man, give me that Raymond candy.
Yeah, give me that stick.
Yeah.
Those weird colored sticks that all go in a different thing.
Yeah. Dr. Rasmussen's chalk leavens.
Yeah. Like, I like pimento cheese, which is not quite pimento loaf, but is also an old, I call it an old person food because Mike makes a sandwich out of it and Better Call Saul. So, and I love pimento cheese. It's the best. I don't just eat a sandwich of it.
Yeah.
I do stuff with it, but I think that's a really good old person food. And cottage cheese. I fuck with cottage cheese. That is a big old person food. I dip chips in it. I don't just like eat it with a spoon.
Yeah.
I think it's really good with various chips as like add protein.
Yeah.
Like makes a snack kind of slightly more meal-like without, slightly healthier without being, nachos Flanders style.
Yeah. I don't care for cottage cheese. It's a texture thing.
You don't like any cream. Like you don't like the cream group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
It's a wide swath. Like it is
It is.
I can't. Some episode I can't remember how it popped up where like I learned you don't even like peanut butter.
Oh no!
And that was probably 10 years in. We're still surprising each other like we're we're still cheating with each other like we're with each other. That was a genuine surprise. I was like, well, I've never met anyone who doesn't like peanut butter. Wow.
Yeah. Just bad experiences with a kid. Just didn't like it.
Like drowning it or
no. It just whenever someone tries to sneak shit on you, I don't know. Like as a grew up as a picky eater, I'm better about it now. But like, there's still stuff like peanut butter where they try, like parents or like babysitters would try and sneak it on me. It's like, well, fuck you.
How'd they sneak it on you? Like it's got a really distinct taste.
It does.
Stick it in chicken nuggets.
They thought I was a fucking idiot, Gary.
Spread a thin layer on your ham and cheese sandwich. Like, that's weird. How do they do it? Like, what do they put it with?
I asked for a jelly sandwich and they put some peanut butter on that shit.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. That makes more sense than them sneaking it in with like hamburger helper or whatever.
Yeah, they snuck it in with my asprin.
Yeah, it's just like you're a dog. Like we did this in peanut butter and then Cole will eat it.
Joy Sweeper writes, what's a piece of furniture that you'd love to have, but for whatever reason, availability, price, it wouldn't fit, your current share is perfectly adequate, etc., is not in the cards right now. Please invent one if a specific example doesn't come to mind.
That was a fun question.
Yeah.
I have a good example because I'm moving. Since I'm moving and my intention is to die in that house and never move again. Something I've always wanted, and this is a dream I gave up on because of the practicality of getting it to fit. But a big, huge, solid one-piece executive desk.
Ooh.
Like I ended up just buying a flat packed desk that has more functionality. Has shelves and places to put things. It will be fine. It will be good. I'll be able to move it up the stairs. I'll be able to get it into the room. All things you need to be able to do for a desk, but just like a gigantic, yes, Mr. Lebowski. You may be asking why I brought you here. Desk. I've always wanted something like that.
Getting the Coca-Cola desk.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
I don't care about the brand or anything. I just want it to be made of wood. It can be any wood, basically.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know woods. Stained, it'll look good. Just a big, heavy fucking desk that cannot move and will not move. I need to be buried in the desk as well as the house.
Yeah. Basically, what you're asking for is a casket.
I am asking. All I ever ask for is a casket. Like most of my asks are caskets.
Nobody's listening.
Yeah, just something to never have to do it again.
Yeah.
The Gary Butterfield story.
I mean, there's an easy answer in this, which is like an arcade cabinet, but I could never decide which one to get. So there's that. I have an outdoor hammock. Man, an indoor hammock would be great. The hammock is the best kind of laying to me. And if I just had it wouldn't have to be up all the time, but if there was just a way that I could have it hang from the wall and then easily just, extend it over and then just boom, here's a hammock for me to lay in and read. Shit, man. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Indoor hammock is good.
Indoor hammock is good. Outdoor hammock is fine, but I don't like my patio doesn't have any covering, so it has to be a very particular time of day. What I want is like a deck hammock, like a hammock that is under an overhang, But yeah.
What if you got like a parasol?
You can like I could get one of those big patio umbrellas. My patio is just not. It's not built that way. really, where it would be especially functional. And with a hammock, you needed to kind of be over it. And a lot of you need to get like those cantilevered ones. It's logistically a problem.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And also, it's not always nice out. I'm in Ohio. We get like cumulatively 3 weeks of good weather.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's either too hot or too not.
Yeah.
Usually.
So,
friend of the show, Naveen, asks, what is your stance on giving your cats human food? Mostly to avoid diarrhea and keep them healthy. I stick to kibble, wet food for my cats, but I can't help but give them some of my chicken, shrimp, or tuna when they look at me so sad. Are your cats on strict diets, or do you give them a wider variety of foods? Nothing but cat food for my cats.
Yeah.
My thinking is it's not worth the risk. They do beg. Jessica would eat everything in the house if she had the ability to. She loves the idea of chicken and will beg for chicken and try to be near chicken if she can. But we don't give them that because we don't know what's in it.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's like onion powder or something and make them sick. And we figure if they don't get a taste for it, they won't know what they're missing.
Yeah, it's they learn patterns and stuff, and Greta will beg. Dottie doesn't give a shit. Although last night I saw some seafood snacks at the grocery store, so I just brought them home, and I was like, I'm gonna have seaweed snacks, right?
Okay.
Yeah, the seafood snacks.
Trying to figure out what that was for you. I thought that was for cats.
No.
With the context of this, it sounded like you were buying cat treats, and then you're like, I'm going to have some seafood. And then it got confusing, like you were going to like one for me, one for Greta.
No. I got some seaweed snacks. Sorry, I misspoke. And I opened those up, and the cats immediately went just fucking crazy. It was like I turned on a hot tub, but instead of water, it was cats. So I was like, all right, I can't have these.
You have to go eat those in your secret eating hammock.
Yeah. I just, I don't want them to get sick. I don't want them to learn a pattern. Yeah.
Yeah. So generally and then same thing with going outside, like our cats never go outside. My thinking is just not worth the risk, for things, so yeah, no judgment, just that's how we handle cats.
Yeah. Diego writes, hi guys. You both do that thing that I like after making a joke that doesn't land, which is nothing, as opposed to flailing in embarrassment like me. Any thoughts on self-acceptance?
I've never made a joke that doesn't land, for one.
How dare you?
How dare you, Diego? This is my perspective on this. Old canard. I've said it a billion times. Think about yourself less. Is like my golden rule for everything. If somebody around you makes a joke that doesn't land, you don't spend a bunch of time thinking about that. Like you're talking to somebody, they make a joke that doesn't land, they say something awkward. You when you're watching them, you don't then spend like the next few minutes being like, God, that was awkward. What a weirdo. God, I wonder why were they even talking? You don't do that to them. Why would anyone do that to you?
Yeah.
You're not so important. Think about yourself less. I know that it can sound mean, but it's really freeing when you start thinking that way. It's incredibly freeing. Nobody's paying that much attention to you. You are not that important.
Yeah.
Just move on. Treat yourself with the same standards you treat other people. That's probably how people are treating you. You're not the main character of the universe. Yeah. And it frees up so much. Like so many things, once you realize things don't matter like that, like it's a game changer.
Yeah. Just, let yourself off the hook the way that you would let somebody else off the hook for low stakes, silly shit like that.
What does it matter? Like at the end of the day, what does it matter? Just a joke that didn't land. Who gives a shit?
Yeah. No. Like for our purposes on the show, like if a joke that I make, if Gary doesn't catch it, or if, whoever I'm on with doesn't catch it, yes, we're trying to crack each other up on here. But also, you get the ultimate vindication, which is somebody either in the Slack or on social media saying, I can't believe Gary no-sailed you on blank joke. And that, so I have the assurance that is a possibility for me.
And the nice thing about that is because of the podcasting disease, I won't remember anything that was about.
Yeah.
And then I just move on. Because that's a burn on me, but I'm like, that doesn't matter. And then the time just keeps going. Yeah. It's great.
Sometimes it is funny to wait a certain amount of period and then say, I'm really mad that nobody laughed at my... Yeah.
You can do that for comedy too.
Yeah.
Like I recorded with Will, who listens. We came up on something last time we recorded Everything to Guppy, which I think is true, is that Will listens to me at 100% attention about 50% of the time, which I think like that makes sense. We talked about it in the thing. So Will misses things I say constantly.
Okay.
And by his own admission, like he's waiting for his turn to talk. He's trying to get in his thing. It's okay because in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is for the audience.
Yeah.
I'll have this. And then he doesn't beat himself up over it. It's great.
Yeah.
I don't think he does. He shouldn't.
Yeah. Moving on to media questions.
Yeah, this is me.
Yes.
Jake mentions Gary mentioned one of your programs that the Conan animated series from the early 90s. Went back and watched a couple of episodes on YouTube, and they are not great despite the banger theme song. I love the X-Men animated series growing up, and I'm closer to Gary's age than Cole's. I was born in 82, and I thought you both liked it. Upon rewatch, there are some solid episodes along with a lot of meh episodes. However, X-Men 97 is excellent and got me thinking, is there a cartoon from the 90s either of you would like to see get the X-Men 97 treatment? That's interesting. I don't, I would watch any of those if they had a good team behind them.
Yeah.
So like, somebody puts out a good Conan cartoon and it's from people who really care and get it, and it's good. Sure.
Yeah. Why not?
But it'd be like kind of creator first as opposed to property first, I think.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I would be greedy answering this because I already got a Rocko's Modern Life movie and it was really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm good. I'm fine. I just want anything else to be bonus. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There are talks of doing, some people talked about Spider-Man 97. The old Spider-Man cartoon from Marvel, which is also really good.
Yeah.
I have nostalgia for. That'd be sick if you brought in people who cared about it, liked it.
Yeah.
I'd watch a good Spider-Man cartoon.
And the Spider-Man, like that series had more like Marvel crossover shit in it than the X-Men did. So I could see that having a really wide appeal, actually.
Yeah. And they're doing a different thing.
Executive.
It would be huge Q numbers.
All 4 quadrants.
Yeah. With demos. They're doing a different cartoon. It's not that, but I would, the X-Men 97 is a weird minor miracle.
Mm-hmm.
And we never need to know exactly what the creator did. Even though I kind of, there's rumors. It's sad. It sucks.
Yeah.
Gonna be okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
Still gonna watch season 2.
Yeah.
Can't
not.
Yeah.
Marius writes, on paper, Stellar Blade sounds like a game I should be really into. Fast melee combat with a focus on parrying, but I will never play this thing because I refuse to stare at a jiggling cyborg ass for about 20 hours.
Put a little asterisk there. Cyborg-esque is all one word, lowercase there.
Uh-huh.
It's incredible.
Cyborgus.
Like I love cyborg-ass. All hail cyborg-ass.
Yeah.
I really like cyborg-ass.
Yeah. I also mispronounced it. They wrote it as jigglying.
Jiggling cyborg-ass.
Same thing with Nier Automata. Please feel free to take this as a suggestion to move it up one more year. Move it back one more year. For this mention alone.
Thank you.
I don't want to sound like a prude, but this needless horniness feels so goddamn condescending to me. What is your most infuriating case of blatant fan service? Best wishes. I may have miscategorized this one, so I apologize if this is more of a game thing.
That's media as well, though. This happens with TV and everything as well.
Yeah.
It can happen like that. I don't, I'm sympathetic to this. I don't like this. I don't want to be complicit in anyone's spank fantasies ever.
Yeah.
And it's gratuitous. It's literally gratuitous. That makes me sound old fashioned because like the world has turned a little bit. I still have like a 90s feminism deep inside me of like, this is gratuitous. It doesn't add to the plot. It's, it shouldn't be there as a thing.
I mean, the world has turned again too, because you get the Puritans saying there should never be a sex scene in anything.
Yeah, which I also don't want though. The world has turned too far from that. I just want sex to be for a purpose.
Yeah,
and sexuality to be for a purpose. Probably the game I would like the most that I am locked out of is Dragon's Crown, which is a spiritual successor to the D&D Capcom beat 'em ups. that looks like I'd really think it was really fun mechanically and is impossible to look at.
Yeah.
For me, it's not only is it just, gratuitous, really big titty things, but it's also everything's hyper exaggerated into these
hard
weird,
to read. Yeah.
super hard to read. And everything looks like a fertility idol.
Yeah.
For, both genders look like weird, fertility drawings in some way that I can't.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
This
doesn't mix for me.
Yeah. This bothers me less than it bothers Gary. The only time I really take exception to it is if it is like a costume on a canonically very young character or a character who is coded to look very young. I fucking hate that. Don't put sex appeal on that. But otherwise, like fan service stuff, specifically in games, really bugs me. The kind that bugs me is more the player fluffing kind, Yeah. Just you're so great. Here's this legacy character that you played as before, and now you're a legend. Yeah, I don't care for that. Like Half-Life 2 barely gets a pass for it.
Yeah. All the Gordon fluffing in that is a little bit obnoxious.
Yeah.
The one great man theory of video games, and it's Gordon Freeman.
Yeah.
Spencer says, what are your thoughts on TV shows based on games? Do you generally look down upon them, or do you think some have been well done? Most are geared towards kids, but even so, I still have fond memories and nostalgia for some of my favorite shows as a 90s kid. Because with some of my favorite shows as a 90s kid were shows like Kirby and Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon probably would have hit that spot as well, but I only had 5 public broadcast channels, so options are very limited. And I was thankful for whatever played from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Saturday mornings.
Yeah. I have nostalgia for them, but like they're not for me as an adult. I can just let them live happily in my memory.
Yeah. We revisit these for adaptation decay.
Yes. Yeah.
And it is rubbed in our face the degree to which they do not hold up usually.
Yeah.
I have nostalgia for them as well. And then every once in a while something bucks the trend. Like we both like the Fallout show a lot. People like that Last of Us show. I haven't watched it yet.
That's all right.
Say it's good. Yep. That's all good. Like there are good versions of it.
Yeah.
It's similar to the licensed games things. It's like, it's no longer the bargain basement.
Yeah.
For Crotto.
Yeah. I got no problem. I'm not immediately prejudiced against a game adaptation just because it's a TV show. If I am, it's probably because of length. Be like, okay,
yes.
like this, there's no reason that this needed to be this long, but
yeah, a 10 episode arc to describe a game with basically no plot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to do some show questions?
Yeah, let's do some show questions.
Yeah.
Let's see. Going down here, Austin writes, I loved hearing y'all talk about the process of starting up a community and would love any more info about how it all gradually came together for you specifically, the different stages and or realization moments that kept you going. I think a lot of us who like y'all are also creators.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a tough question though.
I forget what we talked about the last time, like in depth. And also I do not know that I have more to say about it than what I said the last time.
I think we were talking about the Slack.
Yeah.
Last time primarily, which is like, I don't necessarily have more to say about it now. I like where the Slack's at now, as a good place. But every one of those lessons was hard.
Yeah.
To kind of figure out, and it was through mistakes. Nobody taught us how to do it.
Yeah.
We just kind of assumed we could.
Uh-huh.
That's not true. We started a bonus thing, as to try to get people into the Patreon. It became its own separate concern.
Yes.
Which we did not anticipate.
No.
Yeah. So, that'll kind of trickle in, but I don't have any good answers for that now. That'd be a good thing to like stop and really think about, but it would be writing like an essay or about it. It would take probably more prep, I think. Yeah. Sorry to no sale you, Austin.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Just, follow your instincts and learn from your mistakes.
Yep.
Jason says, hi, Gary. Hi, Cole. I've been listening to WAF for over a decade now and have lots of favorite episodes, but I don't think I've ever heard you say what your favorite episodes are. If you had to make a personal best episodes list to recommend to new listeners, what makes the cut? Selfishly, here are some episodes that to me encapsulate what WAF is best about. Any well-regarded classic PC game that has an incredibly stupid ending that nobody talks about, System Shock 2, The Last Express, Alpha Protocol, Soul Reaver, Fallout 3, we got to do New Vegas man to New Vegas pipeline. Any episode where one or both hosts realize a new game is now one of their favorites to the degree that directly informs what they want from games moving forward. Teardown, Monster Train, Disco Elysium, etc. If there is, in fact, a recommended episode list that I've been oblivious to the whole time, please disregard and make fun of me on air for it.
No, where would you find that?
Yeah, we do. And also, we don't know enough about you to make fun of you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to.
Give us more ammo.
Yeah. You seem nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard because I never know what is going to be like have a big response. Mm-hmm. You know, like there are ones where we'll record an episode. I'm like, that's a banger. That's a good one.
Yeah.
And I'll notice it. And then there are ones where I will feel, you know, like that was just us doing the thing. Mm-hmm. And then somebody will be like, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you know, that's very sweet. That's a nice surprise. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's a little bit hard to answer.
I mean, I can think of like categories, and I think that those break down into being pretty good categories. Like, I don't know, the Jack 2 episode was worth playing Jack 2.
Yes. Yeah. Something that is really good for its time, but it feels like it is based on a bunch of assumptions that like have never been questioned.
Yeah.
You know, like there's never been a why would you do it this way? Mm-hmm. Asked of it feel good to me, not in an angry video game nerd. Like, what were they thinking? Yeah. Even though sometimes, like during Jack 2, I was thinking, like, what were they thinking?
Yes.
A lot. Like, it would be easier to not do it this way. Why would you do it this way? Mm-hmm. It's so much worse. And then it's hard also not to think of moments. Yeah. You know, like The Last Express, like the joy of talking about that ending is really, you know, the city overtaken by giraffes in The Last of Us. Like, those are just like really good moments that I'm very fond of. You know, hard to think back on the rest of the episode necessarily, though.
Yeah.
Those.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say again because of podcaster, you know, colander brain problems, right?
Yeah. Shit
just drains. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Podnesia.
Podnesia. Yeah, I like the pathologic episode quite a bit. It's hard to separate episodes about games that I really love from episodes that I think turned out really good though. Yeah.
That's true too, because it's like you had a good time playing and stuff. I think that probably a good rule of thumb would be very positive or very negative are probably force us to stretch a little bit more.
Yeah.
Even though then, like, I really like light episodes too. Like I like our Sewer Baseball episode, which is just goofing, you know, where sometimes we just fool around. I like that too.
I get really proud of special topics episodes too, just because of the amount of work that goes into them. But we don't do those a lot, but we got another one coming. We do.
We're going to talk about it at the end of this episode.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
What does Devin say?
Me. Devin says, "Hey gang, Big Dog here. Hell yeah.
Hey Big Dog.
Hey Big Dog. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Hey Big Dog."
I'd like to ask the both of you, what did it feel like when the show/Patreon really started gaining momentum? Was there this constant pressure to grow, or was it a giddy, wow, we can really make a go at this, or something else entirely? Hope you guys have both had good summers.
Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, you got a good answer for this?
It all happened so gradually. Like there were spikes, you know, like, you know, we launched and we blew past our first goal in like a day. So that was cool. But that was like literally 10 years ago. There was a spike around the time that Dark Souls 3 came out. There was the spike when we relaunched Bonfire Site Chat. You know, the Elden Ring spike, like
the WoF spike.
Yeah.
Like, switching from fortnightly to weekly WoF with the premium episode.
Yeah.
Was a really big one, if I remember.
Yeah. But like it hit those spikes were there, but you know, like I guess the biggest one would be like literally just like 2019, which was like that was after I had bought a house and moved away from Cincinnati, where after I got laid off from that marketing job, and with 2019 and that relaunch, I'd like being able to actually sustain the life that I had laid out. That was really cool. That was like the particular moment that I can remember, I guess.
Yeah. I don't get giddy about stuff like that generally. No judgment. Like that's not a choice. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of the way my body processes emotions.
Yeah.
And something that has been a refrain for the whole time. Like for me, spending time and pride in the work is not doing the work.
Yep.
In a weird way that I just feel like, no, this is good. I just need to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Like I need to focus.
Yeah. Like all of it. It's not just like, a hangover from it or whatever, but just you see more people come in, and it's like, all right, well, the work continues. Like those are people who are going to want more of this. Like if we were shipping a big product, maybe possibly, but it's something. It's a practice that we do every day.
It's not something with fits and starts. So there are not really milestones, and that's not necessarily healthy. I don't think it's good that it's hard for me to take time off to celebrate stuff like that. It's very difficult for me though.
Yeah,
I don't really do that. So it's probably something for me to work on.
Yeah.
I know that wasn't your intent, Devin, but thanks a lot, man.
Maybe take us off the fucking spot, Devin.
Yeah, geez, Devin.
Big dog.
Yeah, big dog. Why you got a bite? Benjamin says, "Hello, gents. I was wondering if either of you or both of you were influenced or subscribed to any particular theoretical approaches that informed your criticism of games. If not, what is your approach when you're starting out and forming an opinion on a title? Is it relatively instinctive, or do you take some particular approach? Love the network. Thanks." Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Nothing formal. I think the closest thing that I get to formal is trying to separate what was this trying to do versus how well did it do it, and decide if it is for me or not. Something like that. I think that those are some pretty basic questions to answer for a baseline. And then just to start looking like, all right, it are the elements here working together, or are they pulling against each other, right?
Yeah. There's no formal anything. I never think about that. I probably just picked up stuff from osmosis, from reading and listening to other critics.
Yes.
I imagine that my process was probably most informed by like Games for Windows magazine, where Games for Windows Radio. That podcast is kind of one of the first like super thoughtful games podcasts. Like I listened to tons of Retronauts, and that gave me a lot of appreciation for the subject matter.
Yeah.
But they're more historian than critic. No judgment, nothing there. And I remember listening to GFW Radio and being like, oh, like, these people are taking apart what works and why it works, and things like that. And that probably did most of it for me. Yeah. Just examples.
Mm-hmm. And then we inform each other too about that.
True.
Different approaches and whatnot.
Yeah.
Do you want to do lightning round?
Let's do lightning round. We have a long lightning round.
Yes. Chapel writes, as lovers of good sentences, what are some of your favorites you've said to each other over the years? I recently listened to the Unfilmable episode on The Endless, which ended with the sentence, "Bad news, limp dicks. We live on a placid island of ignorance."
Do not remember that, but that is a good sentence.
That is a good sentence. I only remember the ones that people like throw back at us.
Yeah. This is the Podesia.
Yeah.
Got us.
So like they walk left and they walk right. As a thing I screamed on the episode, like an exquisite suffering about the Creatures game. Yeah. I think that's good.
Yeah, people call it, and then eventually it becomes an "I didn't do it, boy" kind of thing, where you don't want to be like say the line.
You don't want to feed it
either.
You don't want to feed it.
You don't. You can't feed it. So it just kind of I don't. I appreciate this is for folk like yourself to do.
Yeah,
and appreciate you doing it. Joe says, any chance y'all will dive back into the PS1 JRPGs, one from the Breath of Fire series? Be honest with you, unlikely.
Yep.
No, any chance is forever's a long time. Chance can mean a lot of things. I don't like them. I don't like that genre. I don't like playing them. I don't, not saying never again, obviously, but like I can't figure it out. My decades long quest to try to figure out what would be good about those, that is aside from just kind of charm and music. The mechanics are not fun to talk about for me.
Yeah.
There aren't enough of them.
Check out my stream of Breath of Fire 3.
Yeah. And and again, things that maybe are informed by that kind of thing, that can still happen. Action, ones with mechanics like action RPGs from that era that have elements still on the table.
Strategy or tactical RPGs. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Dragon Quarter someday.
Yeah.
Dragon Quarter is interesting. That has mechanics, but that's a PS2 one.
Yeah.
But those Breath of Fire RPGs are just too simple for Gary's. Sorry to say.
Yeah. Jordan and Maya say, hey, Gary and Cole, I don't really like wrestling, but I do like hypothetical wrestling matches between fictional characters. If you were tasked with putting together a 6-person match for the Duckfeed.tv title, which characters from Duckfeed's rich canon, I'm thinking of folks like Cornsarnet, Buffo the Clown, the Unipiper, would you put in the match, and who do you pick to win? Is there an upset? Filthy heel tactics? A surprise rub-in from Will Hughes? Get as wacky as you like.
There's a sentence.
I like Will Hughes as a fictional character.
I also like a surprise rub-in from.
I have no idea what that is.
No, I don't know enough about wrestling to know what a surprise rub-in is, but the surprise part's really, and the rub-in is throwing me.
Yeah.
Every word in that sentence is throwing me a little bit. Last night I did a game night. I was talking to Brayton Cameron, my friend who enjoys wrestling. And I had one of those like child questions, like just it's something that I just never occurred to me. And I was like, Brayton, can wrestlers punch each other? Because I was trying to think of what is because you see them and they do little slappies.
Yeah.
And they do a thing where they hold both their hands up and they kind of dress the person down almost like they're trying to take off their pants, but on their shoulders. But it's like they don't punch. And he told me the insane fucking thing. If you have somebody up against the turnbuckle or the thing, you can punch them 9 times.
What?
But if you punch them 10 times, that's illegal.
Okay.
Right? Doesn't it feel fucking insane?
That's wild.
Yeah, it feels insane to me.
Like, I don't want to watch a man die, but also
no, but I don't want to count. I'm not here to count.
No,
I don't know. It was just
that's the referee's job.
I was thinking about that old Nintendo pro wrestling game where like most of what you did was kick each other. And I was like wrestlers don't tend to kick, and it's like they can kind of kick and punch, but only in weird special ways. Like they do chops, and slaps, but they just can't. It's very strange and arbitrary to me.
They can do a punch that is more like to the side. It's like perpendicular to the way that they're facing, as opposed to directly out.
They can box somebody's ear.
Yeah,
but they can't punch them in just like straight on the face.
Yeah, you can't just like pop somebody in the chops.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's strange.
It's weird.
Yeah, super weird.
I don't think they're really serious about winning.
No, I don't think so either. The Harlem Globetrotters ass kind of stuff. Yeah, I don't. A 6-person match, so everybody's fighting. Yeah, I do like the surprise rub-in from Will. Put Will in there.
I do like Will being involved. Cornstark can get in there, but it's hard to picture anybody beating Buffo. I think the only thing Buffo has is Buffo, is his age.
Retired. And
he's retired or whatever. Yeah. But like
Buffo would win if he was a brain in a jar, though.
Oh shit! What if it's 2 phases though? Like you defeat him, and then his skin cracks, and out comes Buffo in his prime.
Sure, it climbs out of his mouth. The Buffo who lived for battle. He lived for tearing apart phone books.
He'd rip Casket Darkfire in half.
Yeah, he would.
I think M. Dickey would have the most fun.
Yeah, and it would be do the best like interviews and trash talk.
Yeah.
There. And I would like to see Buffo tear apart the Zompotato kids.
Yes.
That would be great.
Those Quebecois fucks.
All of these people, given that they're fictional or will, makes me really want Buffo to win, who is neither fictional nor will. Yeah. But of course, I mean, and then the real non-guppy answer is I don't want Will to win because he's my friend.
Yeah.
If it were real. But I also would want to see the surprise rub down.
Yes.
Or surprise rub. It's not a rub down, but for some reason that just feels natural to me.
Rub in. Weird.
Rub in.
Well, yeah, because it's a sunset rub down.
Yeah.
And coming in from the top ropes is Spencer Krug.
Spencer Krug. Yeah, it's just, oh, hi, guys.
I'm sorry that I'm late.
I am a barbarian. The idea of Will Hughes Rubdown as a band name is also very good. Run that by Will. Loop, I poop for you. Says, do you have a memory of begging your parents for a video game and them getting you the wrong one? What was the game you wanted, and what did your parents actually get you? What was your Bone Storm, and what was your Lee Carvello's putting challenge moment?
Weirdly, I don't remember this happening.
I don't have a bought one. Like where my parents bought me the wrong game. I did want a game to get rented. My parents went to my mom went to the video store and it's like, rent me Mega Man, and she got me Mag Max. At one point, which is bad.
Yeah,
that's not a very good game.
That's not a very good video game at all. Yeah, never happened to me, thankfully.
Yeah, Yeah, it was lucky. I did the closest thing to this was me really wanting EVO, the Search for Eden.
Yeah.
On SNES, and my mom telling me over and over that they didn't have it, and then colluding with the used game shop guy to get it, which was very sweet. It was a very nice moment.
Yeah,
I got surprised by it.
I had this momentarily when I was very young. I got a birthday gift sent to the mail from my grandpa who lived in South Carolina. He sent me a copy of Battletoads for the Game Boy. But I didn't have a Game Boy, so I got really, really sad. Thing is, I was getting a Game Boy for Christmas, and for some reason they let me open that up early. But also, there is a history of my parents fucking with me with video games and gifts, so they may have done that to me intentionally. I still have a very distinct...
slipping peanut butter into the gifts.
I have a very...
This is Battletoads plus peanut butter?
I have a very distinct memory of being fucking devastated. So
yeah.
Yeah. Mr. Reciprocity writes, self-contained, sterile, cut off from the outside world, and shielded from the normal flow of time. Is a casino a realm? And then there's a follow-up from Cinderelf. By the same metrics, is Gary a realm?
Not a realm.
Nope.
I'm buffeted by the normal flow of time. I would say, based on just describing it, yes, but having been in several casinos, no.
Yeah.
A casino is not a realm. There are too many doors. You can see the outside of it too much, and it's too multifunctional to feel like a coherent realm. Like they're just bars in the middle of them, and people like yelling at you to get you to buy timeshares and shit.
I think that the thing about a realm is that the consequences inside have to be appreciably different than the consequences that would happen outside.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like casinos are not disconnected enough from the laws of man.
Yes. Very, very enforced, actually. Also, I think a realm is something you get transported to. Like you can wake up in a realm, or just kind of end up in a realm. It's very rare that you go to a realm, but usually like the screen just fades out and now you're in a realm because the writer of the video game is lazy.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen with these, at least in my experience. I'm sure like, Andros Thompson and shit happens for it, but not for me.
Hangover shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Exotic Minivan says, what was the most recent rabbit holes that you've dug into? Recently, I got recommended a 3-part documentary on YouTube about duck boat accidents. It was sad, yet very interesting. I never thought I would know much about amphibious vehicles, but here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. You got anything for this?
I can't remember the last one that was like unprompted by something else. I've definitely been in my air shows accident and rally car accident phase.
Sure.
Snakebite videos, stuff like that. But yeah, nothing so much. As far as like informational rabbit holes, that's just the way I operate most of the time. So it's hard to think of a specific one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Liv and I do this a lot on YouTube. We have been watching the most recent one that we have watched several videos about are about dark rides.
Okay.
YouTube people who do theme park stuff and go through the history and like features of various like infamous dark rides, or do, these are the strangest dark rides. Some of these have an element of, kind of like, I don't know what the word is, not exploitation, but they're, dark rides in foreign countries where they don't know what Bart is. And they have Bart in a vampire cape next to SpongeBob in a floating thing. And it's just kind of great visual poetry.
Oh, yeah.
You don't want to make fun that they don't understand Bart, but like it is pretty funny that they don't understand Bart. So yeah, dark rides is probably the most recent one we've done.
I have, unlicensed Bart is great. I am also a fan of unlicensed Goku from around the world.
Yeah. International Goku is pretty good. It's the only Goku I like.
Yeah.
Like Goku, Sombrero Goku is the only Goku I care
for. Ryan writes, my question is for Cole. What is the angriest Gary has ever made you that you never told him about? Sincerely, William Hughes. Hey, Ryan, you're from the CIA sent here to wreck, and I'm not going to allow it. So I'll instead do the addendum. Also, quick note, I know the voice actor for X-Men 97's Gambit, and I sent him one of Gary's Gambit Christmas specials, and he said, and I quote, "Ha ha ha, this is insane."
Aw.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
That's very sweet. Yeah. A little bit hurt that they didn't reach out for me for that show, but It's okay. That's great.
A little too provocative.
A little too provocative. My version of Gambit has also done a lot of things that like should stop him from being hired.
Maybe, yeah.
He also cannot provide consent. So like him doing a contract is not
that's
legal.
Yeah.
Very sweet. Mike says, Cole, how did reading Getting in the Ninth go? I remember you mentioned getting into it with Gwen on Quackstack. The fourth book in the series is long overdue, so I am eager to hear other people's thoughts, especially from one of my favorite podcasters.
It's good. I'm working my way through the second one. Decided to switch over from audiobook into just reading the paperback because I saw it at a bookstore and got it. Yeah. It's a neat series. I like the world building in it a lot. Characters are really fun. It's necromancers in space. It's neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nice.
Greg writes, if you had told your past self the status of your life and your podcasting network 5 years ago, how do you think your past self would feel about where you are now? What would you like to achieve in the next 5 years beyond growth of the network and happy, productive relationships?
I feel pretty good, I think. If I told myself, I'd be like, cool.
5 years ago would be
2019. Yeah. Where things were going pretty good. Then I'd be like, that's great. And then I would just keep doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
Kind of as of that question before. And then my goal for the next 5 years is to keep doing what I'm doing and have it keep going well.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Not greedy. Don't I personally, I want growth, but chasing spikes like that feels like that's the way that things turn to shit.
Yep.
A lot of the time.
No.
And it's working and people like it and we like it. It seems like it is win-win-win right now.
Yeah. I would like to, complete like a longer term creative project. I think that'd be nice. I've always wanted to do that. I just never have. I don't know. That'd be cool, but I'm not especially overwrought about it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's time.
Yep.
Yeah. Feeling good and would continue to like to feel good.
Yes.
That's how I feel about it. KL says, I was horrified to learn the Mountains of Madness / The Thing Bonfireside Chat special came out 8 years ago. Anyway, this post is entirely to tempt you to redo The Thing as a full episode of Unfilmable. Why don't we just wait here a while and see what happens? That's a quote from The Thing. It's also a funny ending for this thing. Yeah. Did we do both those in the same fucking episode?
Yes. Yeah.
What was wrong with us? Why did we do that so often?
It was a thing that we did. I think we did Uzumaki and something else in the same one too. I think we did Uzumaki and Shadow over Innsmouth together as well.
Why? Why would we do that? Why wouldn't we just do separate episodes on those things? I'm not throwing this at you. Like I'm sure that obviously I had input in that. I just don't understand why we were doing that.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah, and some of the things I'll think back and it'll be like, some of our bundling things make sense. And it's okay. Like I can understand how we felt like a single episode on Shadowgate might be too short. And like, those games have similar mechanics. At the same time, though, I don't think we understood. You know what I think it is? Let me throw an idea by you.
Okay.
And this might be me telling on myself more than not trying to speak for you. I might have just not understood the scope and length we were going to be allowed to keep doing this.
Yeah.
So I wasn't considering pacing on a long-term thing. I was thinking, okay, cool. We're going to talk about, Uzumaki and stuff. Let's bundle it with something though, because we're definitely not going to go on long enough to have an excuse to talk about these things separately.
Yeah.
Whereas if we had broken those things out, like if we had done Portal 1 and then done Portal 2 later, we'd have a Portal episode like 5 years apart where we were different critics and had different frames of references and stuff. And like, who cares if the mechanics are similar? We'd go back and we'd be different people.
Yes.
Who would go through and change those. I really wish that's one of my low-key biggest regrets.
I think
how we've operated the podcast.
We were eating like the plate was going to be taken away, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's what was going on. And it's silly. And I really wish we hadn't done that.
Yeah. And with Mountains of Madness and The Thing, I think that there was a certain amount of like, it was between when we had finished Bloodborne and when Dark Souls 3 was coming out. So like we had a couple of months. We wanted to cover Shadow Tower, but there was like limited time in between to talk about things that we really enjoy and wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, we want to talk about Lovecraftian media, especially stuff that informed Bloodborne, you know, that we know of, or that, you know, trips the same vibes. So let's get as much of this in as we can. So I think it was also like, once Dark Souls 3 comes out, we're not going to have an excuse to do this because we didn't have Unfilmable yet as our outlet for that.
Well, the smart thing to do in that situation would have been to do Shadow Tower after Dark Souls 3.
Yes.
You know, because we had a pretty big gulf there and stuff. I think that, just a lot of like insecurity and kind of guessing what people would put up with.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, people are going to get upset if we don't do a game for a little bit. But like, I like those episodes. I'm glad we did Uzumaki and the thing and stuff. So yeah, I wish we, wish we hadn't done that. You know, to KL's point, there's nothing stopping us, you know, from doing deeper dives on stuff. I don't see why not at some point. Like right now, there's enough new stuff to cover. Yeah. But if we ever wanted to rectify that mistake, I think we could.
Just to have the whole Apocalypse trilogy on Unfilmable. Yeah.
You know, figure it out, or do a slower Uzumaki thing if we wanted to, because I'm sure since we covered all of Uzumaki a fucking split episode, that's straight up stupid.
That is, like, oh no, it's ridiculous. There's that anime coming out later this year too, so that might be an excuse. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's fine. You know, it's just that's a regret.
Yeah.
There. Yeah.
Odysseus says, "Good news, friends! You wished upon a monkey's paw, and it went predictably wrong. You are turning into a low-level denizen of a prestige dungeon. What are you painfully transforming into? An ooze? A goblin? A lurker above? A headless? Perhaps a mongbat?" I had to look up to make sure that wasn't a slur. That is a monster from Ultima.
Yeah, I knew it was from Ultima because of Headless.
Ah, yes.
What they have instead of like goblins, basically in Ultima, are just little guys without heads.
Nice.
They're great.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy, I think I could get down with being an ooze.
Oh man, I don't know that I could be. Do you think that you become an ooze and maintain your sentience?
Well, if we're not maintaining our sentience, then I have to be a dummy human.
Okay.
I was just thinking about, if maintaining sentience, I could get into that kind of slothful lifestyle.
Okay. Yeah.
And I like the idea of eating in a new way.
Okay.
Like an osmosis style eating.
Yeah. So you're looking at Slime Girl Gary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Slime Princess.
Yeah.
You know, Slime Prince. Yeah. And you just roll over a rat, and then that rat is you now.
It's just there. You wouldn't miss tasting stuff?
I think they taste in a new way.
Okay.
I think there's probably, I bet you that's a whole new paradigm.
Yeah.
What was our original wish in this scenario?
I don't know.
I feel like I would probably word my wish better.
This seems like a pretty easy one to avoid. Yeah.
Like I know that that's how monkey's paws work, but
can't decide on the input that gets this output. I don't know, like a goblin or a skeleton, anything that could still cavort and be just a little shit.
You want to stay funky.
Yeah. Want to be able to engage in japes. Yeah.
Yeah, and goblins are good at japes. I think kobolds seem like they have more fun than goblins.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, it depends on the sentience.
Yes,
we'd have to ask the paw. Joel says, "Hi, Gary. You recently shared that you've bought your first house. Coincidentally, my wife and I have also bought a house and moved in a few days ago. How's it going so far on your end?" It's a nonstop parade of terror. So far, just with contractors and getting things up to snuff. We're not moving in for a couple of weeks because we have stuff we had to get done. Hopefully, we can kind of see the end of that. But that's kind of leaked into abject suffering and everything. It's just really all consuming. So it's been stressing me out a lot lately. It's still really good. Every time we go over to the house, I'm like, I fucking love this house. It is a great house. It is a perfect house. It is just, there's a lot to do.
Yeah.
And it's complicated by the fact that I don't drive. So during the day, I spend a lot of time taking lifts back and forth to the house, and everything is a meeting for a meeting. So like I write an email to try to get a quote. They send somebody out. I meet them. They look at it. They give me a quote. I ride back. I then set up a time to meet them to come do it. And it's for multiple things.
Yeah.
So I just spent a lot of time in transit.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of weeks. That is annoying.
Yeah.
But it's going, the end is in sight, and it's going to be glorious.
Yeah. It's that trough between closing and, actually inhabiting it. Like you're coming up on the exciting part. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
getting all of our stuff in there and getting it all laid out and everything will be really fun.
Yeah. Just, nesting. It's good.
Yeah. Gonna die there. Casket.
Mark writes, I realize this is late, but I just wanted to say that when you said the warlock sucks, I immediately thought, imagine if this guy came up to you and now I see the warlock as Carl Havoc. You did that. Someday you will be remanded to the Bloodwar for it. Keep on rocking till then, though. I forgot. I didn't realize until the middle of this that Mark was talking about XCOM 2. So I was
gotcha.
I was going through a Rolodex of all the warlocks we talked about.
I thought you maybe meant the stage magician that
maybe
the family court stage magician.
Okay.
that I follow. But no, this is probably XCOM 2.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I had to unfollow family court stage magician.
Was getting a little too rough.
Yeah, with the election. Getting a little bit too rough.
No.
Election stuff coming up. I don't need that in my feed.
No.
Final thing, Ryan Stevens, will Gary be putting quarters into his washer and dryer at this new place? Yes. I've installed a homebrew coin slot for it.
Okay.
I've become accustomed to paying $1 for laundry. Mm-hmm. And even though we're going to get the quarters back, my wife doesn't like it, but I have been telling her this is not negotiable. The new washer and dryer will also be run by quarters.
Just make sure the coin box doesn't empty into the drum, because you're going to really, it's shit for your bearings. Yeah, it'll be real loud and your bearings are going to burn out.
Yeah, it's going to empty back into my old landlord's pocket just as kind of a tribute. We never tipped our old landlord.
Okay.
So
well, shit. You got to fix that.
Yeah, we have reparations to make with that. So,
let's do our topic.
Yeah, we got kind of a quick one.
Yeah.
Here.
Scott writes, I recently listened to your Sekiro season of Bonfireside Chat, where you mentioned how that game was a bad teacher. Like it was a piano instructor rapping your knuckles when you played a wrong note. As an educator, I can't really disagree. And since then, I've been thinking about how games teach. My question for y'all. What games out there are the worst or best teachers? How has the medium grown pedagogically over the years? And what lessons could the industry generally learn about the capacity for this medium to instruct players in unique and powerful ways? Then they say very nice things. But yeah, games and the ways that they teach you. I'm going to keep this to how to play them. Teach you how to play them?
Yeah, not teach you how to think about the world.
Yeah.
Or how to play piano with the Miracle Piano teaching system.
Mm-hmm.
From NES.
Yeah.
A lot has been written about this.
Yes.
Already. What's interesting about it is that all of the writing in YouTube about it is almost exclusively limited to 8 and 16-bit stuff. I find that really fascinating.
Yeah.
Taking apart Mario 1-1 has been a hobby thing for like a certain kind of game critic for a long time. It's
basically Hello World for a YouTuber.
Yes, like very much so. And then, I've seen similar things for like Mega Man X, things like that, like how that teaches you the first stage. Seen a little bit for like Shovel Knight, but typically people only really do it for throwbacks or 8 and 16-bit things. People don't, usually look at them quite as much for more modern games, which I think is interesting.
And by more modern, you mean anything released post 1996?
Yeah, PlayStation up. Yeah, it just kind of doesn't happen very often. And I think part of that is that something you have to grapple with this is that there are absolutely wonderful games that don't teach you how to play them. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about recently, going back to our double episode kind of thing, how much I want to do another Tony Hawk game.
Yeah.
Just an excuse to bring Modern Gary to Tony Hawk, and see what Modern Gary has to say. Those games don't teach you how to play them.
No, not at all.
Even a little bit. They try to. They have goals that will teach you lines. Like you have the skate, you have to get the letters in skate, and you can kind of see it's trying to teach you that there are combo lines out there. But in terms of how to actually move around and the rhythm of it, not a lick, really.
Yeah.
And you learn how to do an ollie or something like that, but you can't. The act of playing it looks entirely different than what the game teaches you to do.
Yeah.
And that makes me think of like one form of teaching, which would be like a sandbox.
Yeah.
Here are all the things, bean dad it. Like, can you figure out the can opener? If you do, you get to eat,
My child.
Yeah. My progeny, progeny. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And that, the other one that I've seen kind of related to that is Mario 64. You know, like
Yeah.
that doesn't have a first level that like literally just puts you outside the castle.
Unless you
And
play.
yeah, it just lets you kind of take some joy in the movement first. It's like, all right, to start the game, you have to get through that front door, figure it out.
Yeah.
And then you kind of do. It's one of these things where like teaching you how to play the game is different than teaching you the rudiments of it.
Yeah.
I'm really liking the word rudiments because of my drum learning, but like,
Oh.
yeah, but just like, okay, here's how to do an ollie. Here's how to steer and speed up in Tony Hawk is really, really different than what the actual act of playing that is, which is establishing a sustained flow.
Yeah. It like gives you ingredients.
Yes.
And then you figure out how to combine them.
Yeah.
And you learn how those individual ingredients taste, but then you have to experiment with them. It's not a recipe. And I think one of the things that we were getting at with Sekiro is that's a recipe
Yes.
game. It is, and that's what makes that kind of game. And, just so we're not picking on, so it's something that we pick on a lot. Like you can put in many games there that are like prescriptive and very difficult. People that is the appeal for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I would like a step-by-step thing that if I do this exact sequence, dial in this combo, I win as a thing. That is the word for success. And coupling with, I want a teacher like the one in Whiplash. I want Pai Mei from Kill Bill and stuff like that. What's interesting about that to me, and I think that's what makes that subjective, is that people learn in different ways. I learn really well with that sandbox kind of thing. Like the process of getting good at Tony Hawk, it was really, really fun for me. I don't do as well with a Pai Mei.
Yeah.
I should never have a Pai Mei. I should never have had a Pai Mei. There's an attitude, like you get that kind of harsh trainer, like that's how you get excellence. And that feels really movie and anime coded to me, as opposed to real life. I don't know who has ever learned anything and come out without being damaged in real life.
Right.
With that kind of mindset.
I mean, meet and interact with people who have actually been through a drumline experience.
Yes.
Like
they're not happy about it.
No. They couldn't go see that movie when it came out.
Yeah. And you might be thinking, well, what does it matter as long as they play drums well now? And like, of course, that's the part that doesn't matter. Like it's doing the drumline thing or playing the video game that doesn't matter. It's not the emotional damage or the trauma you have that matters.
Yeah.
Not the other one. Not saying that like obviously Sekiro doesn't traumatize you,
right.
But just in terms of using exaggeration to set the boundaries of a spectrum.
Yeah. It's like, no, I can walk away from this. Like every game in the way that it teaches you or in its relationship to you has to deal with, I can always turn this off and leave.
Yeah. And it's just a game. It's a thing that as I get older, I think about more and more. Like that thought will creep up more often. Like, oh, this is a video game.
Yeah.
So like a sandbox is one cool way games can teach you. You can also teach with goals.
Yeah.
One of the things I really like, one of my favorite games this year, Balatro, probably got unseated by XCOM 2, but in terms of games I played this year, but I love Balatro. And the way Balatro teaches you its basics, it gives you those rudiments, as you mentioned. The way it teaches you advanced strategy is through goals and restrictions through that. And the difference between that, to me, and something that is a harsh teacher is being gradual. Each, we'll cover Balatro at some point. Each level of stake you go up in that is teaching you to getting rid of something that would be something you might rely on and forcing you to move on to something different. I am relying on a really, really strong economy. I can get money so I can buy my way out of most problems. Well, but if you don't get as much money, what do you do then? They keep doing that until you have to keep looking for things within that system to fix it. It's like the next level up from a sandbox. Like you get to play, but what if we take away this toy?
Yes.
Can you still make something fun? Can you still make a successful, I don't know what you do, but the metaphor falls down. Make a successful sandcastle without the bucket.
Yeah. I don't know, but you bring that up and all I can think of is Cutthroat Kitchen challenges.
Yeah. Right? Good teacher.
Yeah. It's a great
Cutthroat
teacher.
Kitchen.
Actually.
Like one of the reasons why we like that show is it's a great game.
Yeah.
It's a really good video. It's a very good game.
Mm-hmm. And it's almost like trying to build in a plasticity as a player, right?
Yeah.
Which is like, okay, well, the experience has been taken out of shape in some particular way. Can you work around this? Can you adapt? You have to have systems. You have to have systems built in where that adaptation is possible. But getting through that and meeting the challenge is, I think rewarding in its own right.
Yeah, to me that is more fun than memorizing than J.K. Simmons doing something enough times where J.K. Simmons doesn't yell at me.
Yeah,
personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that something that has changed in games teaching you how to play them is absolutely wikis and YouTube, and how much has been offloaded into just those popping up. To supplement. I think that I have no idea if that is just a completely obvious thing to say that is as tedious as saying these damn tutorials or whatever, complaining about Twilight Princess or whatever. But like that is a marked way in which it has changed. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it also helps with either form of this because you can always watch somebody do something.
Yeah.
Which sometimes is an indirect way of getting teaching. The game's not doing it, but if you're struggling with something, watching what success looks like, is something that like games occasionally will show you, but a lot of times, you have to go to outside sources for that.
Yeah.
And that harkens back to like watching my cousin play a game and figuring it out from watching what success looks like.
Yeah.
Seeing it. There are elements of that where you'll see in like even as old as video games with like attract modes.
Yes.
You can, part of that was just to make people come and look, but every once in a while you'll see an attract mode and it is showing you something like, oh, this is how this works. Like I think about like the attract mode for like Bubble Bobble.
Yeah.
Which teaches you the rhythm of like the two tap.
Yes.
Bub and Cub or whatever, they love to do a gangster style two tap on enemies. You bub them and then you trub them. You get to see them do that little quick two in the back of the head there.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what game is an amazing teacher? Jamestown.
Yeah. Jamestown is a really good teacher. And it's a teacher for a genre.
I know, right? Like how valuable is that?
It's super valuable. When we did those shooter episodes, which we combined for no reason, which we should stop ever doing, the people got frustrated that we liked that game more than Ikaruga.
It's like, what do you expect?
Well, and it's also, that's who it's for. It's for us because we're not shooter sickos. Like this took, Ikaruga does not do a good job of teaching you how to play it. Like you can learn the rudiments of it, but the actual rhythm of how to play that is not, you're not onboarded very gently.
Yeah. No. It assumes so much, and that has been my experience with every shmup, that just relies on you having played everyone before it.
Yeah.
But Jamestown meets you where you are at and then uplifts you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also, you can go the opposite too, like games that will over teach in text. Like we talked about Twilight Princess. One of the things that frustrates me is, finding the balance between, we need to teach this person how to play versus we assume this person has never played a video game before.
Yeah.
As a thing, like that is a pet peeve of mine. Like spending a lot of times, like, you use the mouse to look around, look up, look down. Good. You've done good, Agent Freeman. You king among men. You can look left.
Yeah.
He looks left and right.
It's also hard because when you think about games, teaching you to play or getting you on their wavelength, it is hard to think of a game that is very successfully and universally been able to change somebody's relationship to failure. Like I don't know anybody who's walked into Frostpunk and came out of it saying I didn't think that I would be down to restart that over again, but it was rewarding to see all my failure points each time. If they were not already the kind of person to do that.
Yeah, Frostpunk is an interesting one to think about whether it teaches you well.
I don't think it does. I think
it teaches you on a long term thing, and you're right. It's banking on you just inherently wanting. you getting the feedback at the end of the mission, being a motivator for you.
Yeah. Like, here's where I went wrong. Everybody died because I didn't have enough wood. Well, why didn't I have enough wood? Oh, there's a bottleneck here. It's actually has nothing to do with wood. It has to do with this. It's just about troubleshooting a system at that point, and you have to have a mind that
like that's the game.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, like that is the process. That's what you're playing.
Yeah.
At that. Like failure intersects with this in a really interesting way. Failure and for me, the interval of failure, like I contrasting something with Frostpunk, which has a very long failure interval with that, with something like Teardown, which also does the same thing. You fail a teardown run and you're like, shit, I couldn't get there in time. Why couldn't I get there in time? Well, I got caught up on this piece of geometry, on my way there. Can I destroy that piece of geometry? How do I circumvent that?
Yeah.
But the loop is really quick. You go back to your save right before you did everything and you fix that thing and you rapidly iterate on a thing. And this is going back to stuff we said in the Sekiro season of Bonfireside Chat. Rapid iteration and being able to have grace with your mistakes is very difficult in a drumline style teaching system.
Yes.
Because the punishment is go back to the beginning, undo all your progress. And sometimes, depending on it, you either start at the beginning of that boss fight, but you're not going to start at the same phase.
Nope.
You're not going to start, and that's if you start at the beginning of the boss fight, which sometimes you won't do.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to just kind of go back and be like, troubleshoot that mistake.
No.
The mistake is never, it's always, I just need to be faster.
Yeah. I can't.
I need to react better.
I can't live long enough to learn. This is this boss. So what are we going to do here? Yeah.
Living long enough to learn is really important.
Yeah.
And like there's different forms of that as well. You think about Frostpunk where like you live long enough to fail to learn, but if you don't have multiple playthroughs of that game in you, if we had not done that for the show, I mentioned this when we talked about the thing, and I have no problem with this. I like Frostpunk a lot. My ending was a failure.
Yep.
And I liked it. I was like, that was dramatic and cool. I like how I died in that. The climax of that was one of the most intense like gaming things I've done. Music kicking off, me sacrificing citizen after citizen into the furnace, and just not being able to do it fast enough to survive.
Yeah.
Was really dramatic and cool. That was not a motivator to keep playing for me. It was just my story. That failure was, but I also think that like you can't bank on that.
Yeah, no.
If you just tilt me in a slightly different direction, I would have been like, no, I'm going to prove myself to this. And I would have just done it over and over until I fixed it.
Yeah.
As a thing. Yeah. Yeah. Like, anything else real quick around this that we can think of? This is, we talked about, part of the reason why I wanted to do this one quickly is because there's parts of it we talked about.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot in other things. But it is interesting to think about different methods other than direct tutorializing.
Yes.
And how this intersects with failure states.
Yeah. I think that there's there is a sub discussion to be had here with like puzzle games in particular. Stuff that is not necessarily as systems based, but still requires you to get on a wavelength with it. I'm happy going with sticking with stuff that's kind of more mechanical right now.
Yeah. Even though I do think that like a lot of puzzle games kind of do the Balatro ramp up thing.
Yeah.
I think about something like Luminous, which just literally just ramps up your challenge gently as you go. Making you do things faster and better, but just slowly.
Yeah.
Which I think. I want a gentle hand in life, I guess is the other takeaway for this. Like, call me what you want, but like life is hard enough. I don't need things to be harsh with me.
No.
Narrative harshness, yes. Make me cry, but I don't want the trauma.
No.
I don't want frustration.
Not the frustration. Yeah.
Yep. It's not worth the triumph for me.
Nope.
Yeah.
Gentle. Let's read some responses.
Yeah. We got some responses here, starting with Super Baseball 2020. And you read the topic. I'll start with this. Chris says, one summer about 10 years ago, a buddy of mine came across a dusty but operable SNES with two games, Lethal Weapon and Super Baseball 2020. Lethal Weapon was quickly discarded and would be more appropriate to discuss on Abject Suffering. Super Baseball 2020, on the other hand, turned out to be an absolute banger of a game that received countless of hours of competitive head-to-head play. I'd always play as the Tropical Girls after discovering they basically had steroid-era Barry Bonds on their bench in the form of a power-hitting robot named Wolf. Subbing in Wolf to pinch hit during an important at-bat turned out to be this game's version of a limit breaker, frustrating my friends to no end. His performance was so reliable in pressure situations that we assumed his name was an homage to Harvey Keitel's character from the end of Pulp Fiction. Turns out the game came out several years before the film, so I can only conclude that it was the other way around. Thanks for bringing back some great memories.
I like that story quite a bit. Thank you, Chris.
I like the wolf being named after Super Baseball. Even though I did just have a flash of thinking about Quentin Tarantino explaining Super Baseball 2020 and dying.
No.
Yeah, nope.
Later.
Yeah.
We also put out a call for people talking about similar games. So I included some of those as well. But this one is kind of segues into talking about Super Baseball. Jody writes, my favorite baseball game of all time is Baseball Stars 2 for the Neo Geo. That sharp synth drum track with the absurd amount of voice samples, the early 90s SNK graphics, the comic book panels that pop over the screen when a shortstop makes a diving catch, or the pitcher gets his face demolished by a Jose Canseco monster man who didn't appreciate being hit by a pitch, and the announcer mildly says, "That hurt. I wonder if he's all right." Just constant dopamine hits, at least for a couple of minutes, then you have to pop in another quarter. While I always wish the SNES got a port of that game, I feel like Super Baseball 2020 was a pretty solid substitute. The presentation and color palette are similar, the gameplay has a snappy arcade feel, and the power-up system with exploding robots complements the sports, but in the future theming. But I never quite got the propulsive joy and energy from this game. Maybe it's the odd decisions to try and make the field feel more futuristic that fuck up the flow of it. Glass covering every home run angle, but the dead center, the landmines and sandpit things, etc. I think it's an idea worth revisiting as much as I'd love an NBA Jam or NFL Blitz of baseball to play for an hour or so once in a while.
Yeah. That sounds sick. I played that before on a Neo Geo cabinet in an arcade. Yeah. And it's fun.
Arcade baseball, it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Arcade sports games generally I like more than regular sports games.
Yeah. Man.
Eric says, I think one of the reasons that arcade sports games of this era hold up so well is that they are much more accurate to how it feels to play sports rather than getting into the mechanics of the sports and getting them correct. As somebody who still plays in sports leagues, playing sports feels fast, and at an amateur skill level, you have way fewer decisions to make at any given moment. I think that's why so many people fell off sports games when they hit a lot higher level of fidelity and complexity, because they no longer feels like the fun part of playing sports.
This rings super true.
Yeah, slows it down too much. Mm-hmm. And no longer emulates what it is doing.
Yeah. Good response. Jordan and Maya write, "Hi there. I'm writing under the baseball games caveat to inform you that there is essentially a board game version of Super Baseball 2020, albeit with decidedly less Nazis seemingly drafted under Operation Catcher's Mitt."
Catcher Schmidt.
Catcher Schmidt. The game is called Baseball Highlights 2045 and pits two players against each other, drafting robotic, cyborg, and humanoid players from a shared pool and playing 3 mini games of baseball with them, with all the mechanics around running, pitching, and fielding done via the cards you choose to play. Between each game, you even earn cash based on your performance to purchase more star players for your team. I love board games and am more than happy to report that in this case, the gamification of sports continues to be a much-loved staple of noted indoor kids.
Nice.
That has to have been directly inspired. That sounds too close to be real.
It sounds really close.
Yeah.
I love how board games are interesting because they can, it's the subject matter and then mechanical flow can be really separate. Mm-hmm. Like you could not care about baseball and then just the mechanics of that board game could be really tight.
Yeah.
Just as a board game. Mm-hmm. Like I like that.
Yeah.
Finally, Trent says, it was nice to see you guys tackle a sports game. It's a genre that is often dismissed by gamers, but I spent a lot of time in my youth playing sports games, and I had a ton of fun playing them with my friends and family. My dad wasn't going to play Street Fighter 2, but he could be convinced to play a game of NCAA Final Four 99, and having a local hero, Paul Pierce, on the cover was just icing on the cake. Some of my fondest gaming memories come from when I was living in a shitty apartment with 3 other dudes, and we spent countless hours playing NBA 2K in franchise mode, where we'd pick all different teams to manage and then draft the league. We would shorten the season to something like 30 games and play them all. Dropping a game to a CPU opponent was devastating. Sweeping a roommate in the finals was the ultimate bragging rights. We would play so much that we would figure out all the ways to break the game, both the basketball and management sim sides. And strange metagames would develop to exploit whatever oversight 2K had made in crafting that year's release. Especially funny was the year we realized that the ball handling stat seemed to be bugged and didn't really matter at all, which led to our teams playing forwards in the guard position and relentlessly bullying the CPU opponents who tried to guard LeBron James. With point guards, he was half a foot taller than. Gamers like to slag on yearly sports game releases as just being a new coat of paint, but we were always excited to get the fresh game so we could start a new franchise mode and get to figuring out how to break the game all over again. Sorry if this wasn't specific enough to Super Baseball 2020, but the episode really sent me down a sports game nostalgia hole. Yeah, no need to apologize.
Yeah, I wanted to include it because there's probably not going to be, in the near future, another opportunity to talk about general sports game stuff. And yeah, I think sports games fans should have a moment to be able to say that kind of shit.
I have no particular feeling. I'd never played an NBA 2K. So, this is how I hear about that.
Yeah. And
I never really thought about that as a way to annualizing it, like finding new ways to break it. Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah. New roster, new people to fuck around with. Yeah, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's move on. I'm going to change the width of this column because that's my reorder in width. The read width has to be narrower.
There we go.
Okay.
Narrow read width. Your read through.
Yeah. So moving on to XCOM 2, we have Grefter who writes, "You guys did a great episode 1 for this amazing game. It is really great that you have a finger on the pulse of how transformative War of the Chosen was. I was excited and happy with the base game, but even after the original DLCs, it felt like just more XCOM 1 with a coat of paint, a better vibe, and slightly stronger emphasis on attrition. War of the Chosen does such an amazing job, though, of taking what the base game was doing, and rather than trying to pivot and change the formula, it just dialed all the knobs up higher, adding in mental fatigue on top of just wounds. The Chosen barging in on missions, making you feel directly hunted far more than the alien rulers ever did. All of it just layers systems on top of older systems that make each other work in harmony in ways that the base game didn't quite reach. Excellent game, and really glad you saw and talked about the expansion in the mechanics episode."
Yeah. It's got to be really up there in terms of games where the expansion is integrated into the game.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's a cool thing when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Darkest Dungeon.
Yeah. Darkest Dungeon does an okay job of that. Like I love Darkest Dungeon, but it's not, both those DLCs are not my favorite things. Like I think the base game is stronger, but they add stuff to it. That's a good example though. I think this does it better.
Yeah.
It's a rare thing that you can just add it to it.
Yeah. We had several responses that were just kind of heaping a bunch of sugar on War of the Chosen. So if we didn't include yours, it's just because this one was the most concise.
Yeah. And you have a popular opinion.
Yep.
People agree. Great minds. Joseph says, "Hey guys, thanks so much for taking my request and covering the game." This is Joseph who sponsored the game. I had a hunch y'all would enjoy it. It's definitely a desert island game for me, and I haven't even scratched the surface of the hundreds of mods available for it. If there were to be an XCOM 3 in the works, what would you want to see? For me, it would be a bit more balance of efficacy between the main classes and maybe a few more hero classes. The hero classes provided by War of the Chosen are all great and useful, but I found as I got into the mid and late game, my team was mostly comprised of rangers and grenadiers, with some snipers focused on crazy pistol builds occasionally mixed in. I wish the specialist had a little bit more punch to it. It just falls so far behind as the game goes on higher difficulties. You can make any class sing with the right equipment or slapping chosen weapons, experimental weapons, alien suits on them. But this is my tiny nitpick for what I think is a masterpiece. Really, I just want more XCOM all the time. One of these needs to come out every 5 years or so. Thanks again for all the entertainment you guys provide covering this huge game on WAF. I promise I wasn't trying to be sneaky, throwing out a suggestion this massive.
Oh, if we didn't want to do it, we wouldn't have picked it. You gave us several options.
It's been on the list for a long time too.
Yeah.
We were going to get to it. It's something we were going to play. I also want an XCOM every 5 years. This is a contender for a desert island game for me. That'd be really fun. It'd be, especially if you just had unlimited access to mods. Yeah. Like that'd be really good. In terms of like XCOM 3, that's a little bit difficult. Like more is what I want as well. The balance between classes, I ended up really liking specialists, but I also didn't play on super high difficulties.
Yeah.
So they felt pretty good to me. But I would be, a wider range would be what I would want.
Yeah.
So slightly more expressive play, a little bit more challenge in putting together a squad.
I wasn't making a shopping list while I was playing it, honestly. Nothing felt like such a huge deficiency that I was, craving it. As a need that needed to be, that I would like to see met with priority, I guess. And as far as like, where would the story go, or like kind of what situation, it's hard for me to think of something cooler than running a guerrilla resistance. So I don't know.
It would be John Delancey going into the sea.
Oh yeah.
As hinted at the end, it would be a Terror from the Deep.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
I think, the original Terror from the Deep, it's aliens as well.
Yeah.
I would like a reskin that was like Deep Ones. I think that'd be cool. I like that. An XCOM that is like XCOM colon and then is, XCOM Chronicles or something. Not trying to get into the Bureau territory.
From the book of XCOM.
From the book of XCOM that dealt with other kinds of invasions and stuff could probably give flavor and mechanical, kind of opportunities to change.
Yeah.
In a way that would be neat.
Give me XCOM bugs.
Yeah. Like, at that scale.
Uh-huh.
Like Grounded, but with XCOM.
Nat writes, I was so happy to see this episode. XCOM 2 was one of my favorite games of all time. One of those games I can just exist in more or less in perpetuity, especially because I don't think I've played the vanilla games, the vanilla game since pre-COVID. XCOM is the pinnacle of moddable games to me, and it gives me so much delight to shove a bunch of quality of life, enemy, and class mods together, turn the difficulty to rookie Iron Man so I can work through whatever terrible balance this ungodly mishmash has caused while still having some consequence, and just jam out. Special callouts go to the A Better Advent series of mods, the Chimera classes and Chimera Heroes episodes or series, and the Long War II class pack, playable without the whole Long War II experience. Addendum. Since you asked, I usually use the options to just work Alien Rulers and Shen's Promise content into the campaign, but the special battles are worth playing once. Alien Rulers has you enter a Viper Nest with C.O. Bradford joining you as a Super Ranger with both skill trees, while Shen's Promise has you fighting through a multi-stage factory run by an insane AI with Lily Chen as a super support unit. That's cool.
Yeah, you had me at Bradford. give me more punished Bradford, and I'm in. I wonder if like firing those up, because I'd want to do it when I have an entire XCOM play in me.
Yes.
Because you need to get powerful enough for it. But then doing an entire XCOM play without the War of the Chosen stuff sounds less appealing. So it's really difficult. I don't know why those aren't integrated.
Yeah.
It seems like there should be a way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Dick says, "Hey boys, long time, first time. Actually, I did once cold email Gary to tell him about a British kids cartoon featuring a family of skeletons. But that's another story. Apologies, I don't remember that. XCOM 2 has always been a strange one for me. On paper, I should love the game. My gamer psychographic basically squares perfectly with Gary, especially when it comes to small-scale, squad-based strategy with RPG elements. But something about the game didn't quite click with me. The gameplay itself is super fun, squad loadout and building is fun, tactics feel meaningful, and just scraping through is a blast. But it's the strategy elements, the base building, resource gathering, engineer allocating, it just gives me a headache. I'm the kind of guy who hires an accountant to do my taxes. This isn't the idea of a good time. And I think this was compounded by the random and procedurally generated stages and maps. I'd much prefer a solid set of human-made missions and arenas accented by a small or optional set of procedurally generated ones. I try to persevere and ignore that stuff, but eventually it just becomes too much and I stop playing. I only even think to complain because I want to like this game so much. Ironically, I've never even paid for XCOM 2. I played it for free as the PS4 PS Plus and lately as an Epic Games freebie. Does this ever happen to you guys? Something seems like it'd be perfect, but a small element ruins it for you. Keep on rocking in the free world.
I feel like it happens quite a bit, but it's hard for me to think of a specific time that it has recently.
Yeah, there are things I won't put up with. you know, that like are just there. And I don't know if it perfect is the stretch there, right? So like I'm interested in the gameplay of Death Stranding, but I can't deal with the man.
Yeah.
And his storytelling style. I don't know if that'd be perfect for me though. You know, the closest thing to this came up earlier in the episode, which would be like Dragon's Crown.
Yeah.
Which you know has the fan art horny golems.
Yeah.
You know that I can't look at, but I think would otherwise be something I'd really like. In terms of the tactics or the strategy layer of this, like you're not alone in that. There are people on our Slack who really similar who like everything except for that. As a thing, I don't know what to say other than it didn't bug me.
Yeah.
You know, and part of it might just be the board game DNA. Like felt like a board game, and I'm pretty comfortable with board games. As a thing, but if you're not, I can understand that being a little bit tougher.
There's a game that came out recently that's like a grand strategy game that is XCOM alike. You're trying to like manage the world in a alien invasion. That is basically just the strategy layer taken out to like Crusader Kings kind of level. I cannot for the life of I'm looking at my big list of games here, but I cannot recall what it is called. So I'm sorry. I'm somebody who likes the management layer and could play a game that is all like that. So I would like to play this, but yeah.
No.
I don't know. I thought it was good to get a detractor's voice in there.
Of course.
All of that makes sense.
Yeah.
Lewis writes, I'm very excited to hear you talk about one of my favorite tactics games. XCOM 2 stands as a titan of the genre and deservedly so. Since I heard your first episode covering this before writing, I know you're both going to talk a lot of sugar about it, so instead I'd like to mention its wider impact on games. This, in my opinion, is mixed. The Firaxis XCOM games revived big-budget turn-based tactics. Many of their design choices became codified as genre standard, particularly the 2 actions per turn move economy and the player goes, enemy goes initiative system. These aren't bad systems per se, but they are far from the only way to skin a turn-based tactics cat. And in the post XCOM Tactics boom, it was very hard to find games in the genre that did not use these systems. Perhaps that's part of what made Baldur's Gate 3 so refreshing to me. Baldur's Gate 3 is an obscure little indie game that you two probably haven't encountered. You might want to give it a look. I have a feeling you might like it. Anyway, let me wrap up with an addendum to your comments on the Avenger defense mission. If the mission goes long enough, not only do you get a full second squad to command, your injured soldiers begin leaving the infirmary to join the battle. The first time this happened to me, I almost fell out of my chair. It might be my favorite XCOM moment ever, which is saying a great deal. Then they say some nice stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's sick. I like that idea of everyone having to come together to defend, bustling through the injury.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
the kind of like sorry.
No, I think we were going to say basically the same thing. So go ahead. Don't worry.
Yeah. The 2 action, it's interesting that you bring up Baldur's Gate 3 as a alternative to it, because that 2 action kind of thing, the move and fight thing is tabletop coded. That came from D&D originally. Yeah. As a thing. D&D has the interspersed initiative, the threaded initiative, but so it's not my team then your team, but that kind of you get to move and you get to do a thing.
Yes,
that's D&D.
Baby. Yeah. We've seen the impact in other stuff. I mean, we've played we've covered Shadowrun games, right? Which that was Convergent Evolution, but very similar.
Well, and it's also like a lot of the stuff was from the original XCOM. I don't know necessarily that the Firaxis XCOM games are responsible for this, given that like old XCOM games did it as well. As a thing. I do agree that there's more to do with turn order and stuff. I was watching a YouTube just to have something on in the background, like one of those multi-hour things. And it's about the history of games based on Lord of the Rings. And they were talking about the Lord of the Rings tactics game for PSP. Okay. Where you everyone moves at the same time, and then you get to act based on that. Oh. And I'm kind of curious about that. Yeah. Like I wonder how that would work. I don't necessarily think it sounds cool. It sounds messy, but I'm curious. About it.
The game I was thinking of, the grand strategy one, is called Terra Invicta. That's what that is. If you wrote me about this, if you tweeted me, shame on you. Listen to the end of the episode.
Yeah, there we go. Unless you were the person who originally tweeted it. and it's how you learned.
No,
then
I learned.
Bless on you.
I learned about it from Dennis. And
Shame on Dennis then.
Let's see here. This is you.
Mojave Mo Problems writes in and says, I thought we'd write in to discuss how the highest level of difficulty, legendary, changes how the game articulates and why I love it. It does all the standard things in combat. Enemies have more health, hit more often, do more damage, there are more of them, but it also does a bunch of things that you can't see. For instance, on lower difficulties, enemies get steered away from your squad if you're already heavily engaged, and the game feeds you hidden aim bonuses to prevent miss streaks, not on legendary. But where it really transforms is on the strategy layer. They massively increase the time it takes to do everything. Research, building, wound timers, etc. are all lengthened. A ranger wounded on their first mission would be out for 41 days. And on top of that, all the resource costs are higher, and it takes significantly more XP to level your soldiers. This has a bunch of knock-on effects, but the biggest is that it makes progressing against the aliens much slower. Especially in the early to mid-game, you'll be struggling to keep pace with the aliens. Appearance of stronger enemies like mutons is also delayed on legendary, but not as much as you'd like or need. And the Avatar Project Doom track is going at a constant pressure. On legendary, you feel the scales tipped against you, and the game is about slowly and steadily tipping them the other way, one victory at a time. There's a lot of fun to be had on any difficulty, but that feeling that legendary gives you of overcoming the odds and the meticulous way the whole thing is balanced is satisfying in a way I can't adequately describe. Yeah, that would be something I would do on my desert island.
Yeah.
Playthrough of that 100%. Like, I want this to be harder. I don't necessarily want it to be slower.
Yeah.
You think about comparisons also with Radiant mode in Darkest Dungeon. My favorite thing about that is not how it makes it easier, it's how it makes it a little bit faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a thing, just so the run doesn't take quite as long. And that kind of plays into that tutorializing failure interval as well. That feeling of getting into this, going a really long time and then failing can feel bad.
Right.
3 times the length of a Frostpunk, and then you realize you can't win.
Yeah. I think the version that I want is the higher stakes one, which, I mean,
yes,
cannily, this has Iron Man, to give you that. So I don't know.
Yeah. But I would definitely do it if I had a long enough, life. if I had a lot of time.
Yeah. And final one here for XCOM 2. Matthew writes, instead of an anecdote, I wanted to request some elaboration on a point that you made that felt resonant. I struggle with obsessive compulsive disorder. Diagnosed? Not being careless with the term. Generally, I do pretty well managing it, but it does mean that I will get 60 hours into Darkest Dungeon before a switch flips and my brain goes, the save is unacceptable. I gotta delete it and start fresh now before I change my mind. It can come from anything from a poor play to realizing I didn't pay adequate attention to a cutscene or tooltip earlier. It doesn't necessarily matter if Iron Man is on or not. My brain knows what's up when I save scum, and it doesn't approve. The save file must be pure. What does that even mean? Beats me, man. Sometimes that wasn't they said that. I said it like it was my own my own interjection. The save file must be pure. What does that even mean? Beats me, man. Sometimes I'm just a passenger in this vessel. It's a small miracle that I ever brute forced XCOM Enemy Unknown. I love the systems and aesthetics of games where you roll with failure so much, but my pathology won't let me enjoy them. But when you talked about failure in games as an element of good storytelling, that was a curveball for me. Thinking of it as a story I tell myself instead of as a game system that must be optimized, is kind of a nice way to look at it. Doesn't fix everything, but it feels like it could help. I was wondering if you could elaborate on an experience of failure in XCOM being resonant for you as storytelling. P.S. Thinking about the relationship in aesthetics and systems between XCOM and XCOM 2, does Doom 16 to Doom Eternal feel like a good analogy? Much love, you both rule, and thank you, Gwen.
Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you, Gwen.
And thank you, Matthew.
Yeah.
Just the easy one. I think the Doom thing does, like, this increased emphasis on story and talking, a little bit in Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
From Doom 2016. Like, there's something there.
Yeah. I feel like this is more successful.
Yeah. I think so too.
Yeah.
I like this more.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's a better game.
Yeah, I think so. In terms of like the narrative thing, the game has to support it.
Yes.
And that just really has to do with something being a text, like, and supporting that kind of richness where it's not just a power fantasy.
Yes.
Like when I think, something that like a term that crept into our vocabulary when we started doing Real Lich Hours was the fantasy.
Yeah.
Right. Like what is the thing you are pretending to be when you're playing a video game? What is the thing you're having fun pretending, doing? And for me, that has never been ultra competent. I win at everything.
Yeah.
That's not my fantasy in real life. It's not my fantasy in games. My brain rejects that. It's not realistic. So my fantasy is to tell a good story. Like ultimately at the end of the day, I want to be told and to tell a good story, be involved in a good story. And all of my favorite stories are full of tragedy and failure.
Yes.
So the way that I will wrap that into a game thing is just trying to like shift my perspective. Like, oh, this character died. I really like them, but that's cool. That happens in all of my favorite stories. That happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't reflect on me. I didn't fail that character. Like that was luck. That happens in real life. It happens in this thing that my fantasy is emulating a version of as well.
Yeah.
It's you're kind of like just realistic fantasies, I guess.
Yeah.
A realistic scale for fantasies. A great game to, I think that like maybe one of the best games to onboard you to this idea is Sir Bronte.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Cause it's explicitly a story. It's a story that would not work well without tragedy and failure. I think it's kind of about that.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to think of a bunch of games where that can do this, but that one is a good one to, I think, single out for that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. That might be a good way to get it. I think that for me, looking with the story, it's not only like more realistic, but there's something about that sports movie moment of snatching delicious victory out of bitter defeat, or like a brush with bitter defeat. Making sacrifices in order to make that happen. I don't know, this there's no way for this person to live and for the mission to be, to be completed. So they're going to have to make it happen. So there you go. And then that means I'm better situated to make a better counterattack, on the other side of it.
The greater good.
Yeah.
Like you're thinking about things in a way that is, I can't think of a better word for it other than richer.
Yeah.
Than if you just perfectly execute something out of the gate. You don't want to be a Ready Player One.
Yeah.
In this stuff.
I also think that it is a matter of adjusting your time scale for success or failure. Which is to say that, like, if you are trying to, if you're focusing on just, hey, I need to make this the perfect mission, you're very much not doing that. But just for everybody in general, like, okay, I need to get everybody out of here alive. That I think is denying you like a greater dramatic swing or push and pull in a much bigger game, right?
It reminds me a lot of like playing Dishonored and like restarting every time you get seen or something like that.
Yeah.
Going for that kind of thing. Like that's a valid way to play. But what you end up having is this weird kind of almost like a task bot, like a tool assisted slow run.
Yeah.
Where you just kind of do it over and over and over until it's perfect. And then at the end of the day, like you have this perfect playthrough. No mistakes were made. But like that's another good example for this, because I feel like the no mistakes were made Dishonored run is really narratively less satisfying.
Yeah.
The story part of this, if that has import to you, as a separate entity, like this is a thing that I'm collaborating with, but it's not me. I'm not getting the attaboys or the detriment to failure. I think there's a remove element of this that is kind of necessary.
Yeah.
For it. And I think if you engage with that and the game engages with it, you can get huge dividends with that. It has changed the way that I play games in a way that I really like.
Yeah.
I love thinking that was my story. Go back to, we talked about Frostpunk.
Yeah.
Like that was super cool. The story of a ruler who was not set out, who did his best to do this, but made mistakes along the way. And those mistakes were very costly and doomed the civilization. That's dramatically fascinating.
Yes.
To me. Like that's a cool story that's rich.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how that interacts with compulsions,
but
I think
good point. I'm not trying to minimize anything.
No, I don't know. Not even just anything you said. I'm just saying, like, in general, like anything that we said there, like don't live in
I'm not saying telling anyone just to tank it. Like just tank it and do what I do. Like I'm not saying that. Everyone's got different brains. That's what works for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just simple reframes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finally, we have one response about Illusion of Gaia. Kind of surprised. I thought we'd get more for this. Ryan says, had to chime in on this one. It has some powerful nostalgia to me. I played through the game dozens of times as a child, and it was always surreal. The eerie music combined with dark themes, slavery, cannibalism, Russian roulette, friends became a whale. One moment that really stuck with me is the village of angels that live underground and have lost most of the meaning in their existence. One room, an angel has assumedly committed suicide by laying in a beam of sunlight. Real what the fuck vibes for 10-year-old me. The other thing this game did was teach me about history. No, really. The way this game bizarrely uses real world locations in surreal ways made my stupid baby brain wonder, what's an Angkor Wat? Wanting to see what inspired these settings caused me to do a lot of research on things that our public school system just wasn't up to. Okay, thanks. Love you. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah. All good and true.
Yeah, I agreed on all those points. I just had to laugh at friend becomes a whale.
Yeah, it happens.
It does. It happens. It happened to me. Rip Jimmy. No, but like that last point is, one of those things like, this will send you to an encyclopedia as a kid, or will just make you assume that Angkor Wat was always a fantasy tale.
Yeah. It could go either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or this is based on the real Angkor Wat. It's not a fantasy tale. This is just truth.
Yeah.
About all this stuff.
The uncharted waters problem. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thanks everybody for writing in. If you have things to write in for next month's games, the deadline is always the 15th for that. And Duckfeed.tv/contact is always the place to do it.
Yes. Please write in by the 15th. As Gary said, keep the responses concise and specific. Let's say for that. Those games in September are Super Bomberman 2, City of Heroes, and Fable 2. Fable 2 being the premium episode for that month. And if you have thoughts about October's games, well, we're going to announce them now.
Yeah, it's spooky month. So the first thing we're going to be covering is Stasis Bone Totem. A game I'm not familiar with, but is a patron request. Looks cool.
Yeah. CRPG, indie CRPG horror game is the impression that I get off of it. We're also going to be doing The Last Door, Season 1.
Yeah. With Season 2 coming at some point. For sure in that. This is Brett kind of got a 2-for-1 because Brett wants us to do both seasons. We're probably not going to do them both right there. You'll see we have long stuff coming up in both November and December, and we're coming off of City of Heroes and Fable. So we need a little breathing room. So we're probably just going to do Season 1 of that, but we're going to break them up the stories and everything, and we'll do Season 2 probably before next October.
Yeah. If you don't recognize The Last Door, this is a point-and-click adventure game, Lovecraftian, and it is made by the people who did Blasphemous. It was
the Game Kitchen.
Yeah, the Game Kitchen. It was those folks. Beautiful art and music in that.
Yeah, we both have soft spots for those games, I think. The next one is going to be a topic episode, bringing back the long-awaited topic episodes. And this is Horror at the Arcades.
Yeah.
This is something that popped into my brain as an idea, largely inspired by you and me telling you and us playing that kind of dark ride light gun Japan-only game over at Next Level.
Yeah,
games. That's not great or anything. It's actually Resident Evil coded. But you play it in a little curtain. It's supposed to be scary. There are like jump scares and air jets and stuff that pop out as you play it. And thinking about what attempts have been made to do actual horror at the arcades, and then also an excuse to talk about horror theming.
Yes.
We can talk about Splatterhouse.
Yeah, talk about Splatterhouse. We're going to get some House of the Dead in there.
Yeah, perhaps ghouls, maybe ghosts, maybe goblins, stuff like that. And then also do some research, because I feel like there are probably really cool games we don't know about that have done really, really neat stuff with this.
Yeah.
So a bit of an overview, and not going to be super deep dive on any individual game, but kind of a survey course on horror games at the arcade.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm excited about all this, but I'm excited about our premium game. This is my pick for the month. We're going to talk about Crow Country. It's an indie heavy month, but Crow Country is, I think, one of the best encapsulations of classic survival horror. That is also like mechanically fun to play. And I think that is an important caveat on a bunch of this. It's one of the best horror games I've played in the past year, and I'm excited to kind of dive into it with Gary.
Yeah, I'm excited to try it. So, and we have fun stuff coming up in November as well.
We do.
If you're hearing this and you are a marginalized person, you'd like us to shout out your project or product, please send me an email at gary@duckfeed.tv. Include pronouns, pronunciation, relevant links, things like that. We'd be happy to do so. And if you want to support us, the best way you can do that is by going to Patreon. Go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. $5 a month gives you most of our bonus shows. $10 a month gives you all of them. And the rewards up from there as well.
Yeah. Plenty of stuff there to be found. If you can't do that, we understand, but you can leave ratings or reviews and tell your friends about, I mean, you can tell your friends about anything that we do, but it'd be nice. Word of mouth is the main way we grow.
Yeah. Yep. Also, join us and thank you, our producer, Gwen.
Thank you, Gwen.
Yeah. And we'll see you next week with Super Bomberman 2, which is a real treat of a game.
Love it.